Hey y'all, it's Coach in the Fight here with part 2 of a short mini-series dealing with spirituality. Chapter 48 of the Third Testament of the Bible. We're talking about spirituality. We got Stacy with us.
Hey everybody.
And we've already gone through 31 verses in the first part, and we're going to finish, or we're going to do this second part here, which is the requirements and characteristics of the authentic spiritualization, or spiritualism. What do you think?
Okay, I'm ready to learn.
All right, because you had this question this morning.
Right, I had a question as to how do you get the spirit? Okay. So now we need to know how to get it, the requirements.
All right. Now, just for sake of clarification, now you know you already have the spirit. Everybody's born with the spirit. What you want to know is more spiritualization, how you can take advantage of the spirit that's inside of you, how it can become prominent in your life. That's right. What you want to know.
Right.
Because you already got the spirit.
Correct.
All right. Now, all right. So you gonna read?
Yeah, I'll read this one.
All right. Well, let's do like we do last time. We'll go.
32. Understand, a Judas exists in each man. Yes, disciples, because in your case, the material body is Judas to the spirit. It is the material that opposes the shining light of spirituality, that which besieges the spirit to make it fall into materialism, into the lower passions.
All right, so materialism is a block for our spirituality. It's materialism that breaks us down into these lower passions. Now, what is a lower passion? I'm thinking he's talking about stuff like anger, he's talking about like vices, stuff like that kind of stuff, lower passion.
Right. Mm-hmm. Not having patience and, being unkind.
So it's our materialism that puts us here, it seems like. All right, go ahead.
33. But do not condemn your material form because it brings you to the edge of the abyss. You need it for your advancement, and you will overcome it with your spirituality, as I overcame Judas with love.
So you asked this question later in the earlier section about, what about spirituality? I mean, materialism. Are we supposed to get rid of all of it? You can't. And he's saying, don't condemn your material form, your bodily form, because it brings you to the abyss. Meaning it's getting you in so much trouble. Don't condemn it. You actually need it for your advancement.
Like if it wasn't for the bad times, you wouldn't have any good times, or you couldn't celebrate the good times.
Well, remember,
like that.
Well, we're all coming out of the Third Testament of the Bible, and we're all the way up here in chapter 48. Some of the guys have missed a lot of chapters, and so they may not be familiar with all of this stuff. But see, in all of us once dwell in what the scripture called a spiritual valley. This is before we was ever even born here on earth. But he says that in this place that we were, we didn't have any merits. We didn't have anything to reach the spiritual development that we need in order to be where we're supposed to be. So in order to rectify this, the Lord gave us bodies and a life and lives to live it out here on earth, and climb Jacob's ladder for us to move on. Mm-hmm. Without this material body, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you need materialism.
Well, you need your material form, you need your body, and you need some type of materialism in order to maintain that body. Food, clothing, shelter, or some of the necessities that you have to have.
Right.
All right, let's go on.
Before you rise up to teach my maxims and expose its concepts, you should begin by practicing the teachings that I have revealed to you, loving your fellow men, living an elevated life, sowing your path with life and charity. If you do not do this, then I can tell you now that you have not understood spirituality. It uncovers your essence, and by means of it, you can form a true concept of your Father and know yourselves. Right.
So he's telling us, before you even call yourself a teacher or anything, you got to go out here and live this thing out. You got to go out here and practice this stuff, and that's the only way you're gonna truly be able to say you understand spirituality is if you live a spiritual life. And what does it mean? Loving your fellow man, living an elevated life, which you talked about earlier, sowing your path with light and charity.
Right, because how can you teach somebody to be charitable if you're not charitable.
Well, that's what we're doing down there at the church, ain't we? We go into church on Sunday and they talk about loving this and loving that, and then you don't hear from them you don't hear from them no more until next week, you know. So we're kind of teaching love, but you know they're not living love, and that goes for a lot of us. And he's saying that until we actually, you know, start performing charitable deeds, we're not going to make it far with the teaching, with, you know, the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
He says, if you do not do this, and I can tell you now that you have not understood spirituality.
Right. It uncovers your essence, and by means of it, you can form a true concept of your Father and know yourselves. Right.
All right, let's go on.
35. It is true that in order to achieve spirituality, you need a certain amount of renunciation and some effort and sacrifice. But if in your yearning for elevation you has awoken, if love has begun to vibrate in your being, or if the ideal of spiritualism has arisen in you, instead of sacrifices and self-denial, it would be a pleasure for you to cast off all that is useless, superfluous, or evil.
Okay, now he's talking about two different people here. He's saying that if you've already, you know, began to understand spirituality, or if you're moving in that direction, he says, if love has begun to vibrate in your beings, or if the idea of spiritualism has arisen in you, instead of sacrifices or denial, instead of seeming like a sacrifice or seeming like a denial, you will want to get those things out of your life that's useless, superfluous, or evil. But notice up here it says, it is true that in order to achieve spirituality, you need a certain amount of renunciation and some effort of sacrifice. And that's what he's talking about. All of these things that are in your life that are useless, superfluous, and evil are going to be purged from your life in order for you to reach a spiritual nature. Mm-hmm. And you're familiar with that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All of those things have to go away first.
Right.
All right, let's go.
Keep always in mind that before me, you are all equal, that all of you had the same beginning, and that all bear the same purpose, though each destiny presents a different outward appearance.
And what is the same purpose? We learned in the last section that spirituality is the goal. That's the intent. Right, that's the main thing. So that's what he's talking about. We all have the same purpose. The same purpose here on life is to become spiritualized being, to become closer to, you know, who he is, and closer to where we need to be so that we can get off this rock.
Right.
Right. And he says through each destiny presents a different outward appearance, meaning we have different roads that we're going to take while we're here. Some are going to be teachers, some are going to be singers, some are going to be this, some are going to be that. But we're all going to end up at the same place, and that's the land called spiritualization.
Never forget that all of you must come to me, which means that all, though in different ways, shall earn the merit necessary to reach the highest spirituality height. Therefore, never consider none to be inferior. Yeah,
don't be judging people, right? Because we all going to be spiritualized eventually. That's what he's saying here. You all must come to him. And we learned that in the Third Testament, that everybody's going to be saved. Some people are just going to come early, and some people are going to be later on. The ones who embrace his doctrine are going to get there early, but the ones who choose their own path, they're going to get there. They're just going to be late and wet and dirty, you know. But so don't consider anybody to be inferior.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Vanity should never sprout in the spiritualist. Rather should he be always accompanied by true modesty. His acts, therefore, instead of dazzling with false light, shall resound in the hearts of his brothers.
Right. So, you know, you become spiritualized and you put on all of these rights, put on all these splendor, put on all these garments or whatever to show that you... No, it ain't nothing like that. It's simplicity. Remember, spiritualization takes you the opposite way of materialism. Materialism tells you to go get the big zoot suit and the big fancy Lincoln or whatever. Spiritualism does the opposite. Right? It tells you to give your Lincoln to the poor guy or sell it and give him the money, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, even your suit, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you expect spiritualists to be modest.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
39. The good sores of spiritualism should never be distinguished by the outward of the material. There should be no habits, no insignia, nor any special manner of speaking for them. All their acts will be simplicity and humility. If they are known for anything, it will be for their charitable charity and spirituality. 40. The true preachers of spiritualism shall not be noted by the floweredness of their language, but by the wisdom and simplicity of their words, but above all, for the truth in their works and the goodness of their lives.
Yeah, like you said, the words should be simple. The words you shouldn't have to go get out a dictionary to understand what the people are saying. If you do, they probably don't know what they're talking about. They should be able to talk in, plain or, simple language. The scripture is written in simple language. Why do we need, a dictionary to understand the preacher?
Right.
So it really should be, simple words, simple dress, simple behaviors, simple, everything, not a whole, bunch to do. That's all materialistic stuff when you get out of anything simple. All right.
41. Spirituality is clarity, simplicity, the worship of love, and the struggle to reach the perfection of the Spirit.
All right, so we should be writing this down. Now, somebody's going to have to go back and write all of this down because we got several different meanings, but we know they're consistent. It's just using different words to describe it. Mm-hmm. Here it's saying it's clarity, simplicity, worship of love, and the struggle to reach the perfection of the Spirit. Right? So what does it mean to reach the perfection of the Spirit? Because we're about to get into a whole nother section. Are we going to go on with this one, or are we going to... I don't know. Let's see what happens. So what does it mean for perfection of the Spirit?
Fulfilling the Spirit, that it's complete.
Well, anytime you see the word perfect, you automatically should think the law. You cannot be perfect other than anything to do with the law. When he's talking about perfection, he's talking about he's talking about being in obedience to his commands, statutes, judgments, precepts, and so forth. So perfection of the Spirit means using his doctrine, the knowledge of the Scripture in order to have our spirits to evolve to where we can take advantage of our true gifts. Mm-hmm. Let's see where we're at. We are at 13 mints. Keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, well, we'll finish this. We'll start section. This section is called the blessed effects of spirituality. So the effects of spirituality. Okay. So this is how you know if you're spiritualized. The results.
Okay.
All right, let's see what it says.
42. By means of spirituality, a degree of elevation can be reached that permits man to conceive of ideals beyond that which his mind can imagine and have power over the material.
Now, in the last section that we talked about, one of the previous sections, this is the third section, it may have been the first section, that we talked about how spirituality have you doing prodigies and wonders.
Mm-hmm. That was the first section.
Right. So, once by means of the spirituality will we be able to do these prodigies, even beyond what we can imagine. Mm-hmm. Right? And we can have the power over the material too. Right? But it's only through spirituality. Remember, our spirit has to impose on the material in order for us to get these gifts. All right, let's go.
43. Think now, if the elevation of the spirit were employed in the study of the material creation presented by nature or any other human ideal, what fruits could be obtained if your discoveries were due not only to examination of the mind, but also to the intervention of the spiritual revelations given to you by He who created all.
Okay. So now what he's talking about here is, we're just thinking in terms of material. But what if we, or using our mind, we did examinations according to the mind, but what if we did examinations according to the Spirit? How much more would we learn is what he's trying to say here.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So we have to think in terms of not only what we understand, but we have to think higher-minded stuff. All right, let's go.
44. When men achieve spirituality, they shall be creatures superior to all that surrounds them. Yet, until now, they have been only weak beings at the mercy of the influences, the elements, and the forces that ought not to be above man, because they are not superior to him.
Right. So, these elements are not superior to us. Winds, fire, water, earth. These elements are younger brothers according to the Scripture. They're supposed to obey and do what we say. Just like the little puppy out there. He's here for our pleasure. But because we are so far away from our spirit nature, we're so materialistic, we're at the whims of anything. The winds come blow our house over anytime they get ready, and ain't nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think about when Adam and when the Father gave Adam, disciplined Adam, he said that the earth will no longer yield her strength to you. So, yeah. So at one time she was willingly, or he was willingly yielding to man.
The earth, and the elements, and but now they don't, and it's because we've gotten away from the stuff that Adam was thinking about and going through. Now we're thinking about cell phones and TVs, and we can care less about nature and such. And so we don't respect nature, and so it doesn't obey us. It doesn't do what we say. But through spirituality, we can get there. Elements they supposed to do what we say. Rain when I need rain, sunshine when I need sunshine.
Right.
All right, let's go on. Did we skip one?
Yes, go up.
All right, right there, 45.
I tell you truly that spirituality too is inherited, and so you should take care to transmit purity and a sensitivity to the spiritual to your children. They shall thank you for having the charity to bestow to them a body with sane passions, a clear mind, a sensitive heart, and a spirit awake to the call of the conscious.
So so your kids can inherit your spirituality.
That's it tells you to leave a gift. A wise man leaves an inheritance for his children, but I would say this is definitely much better than land or anything like that, right?
Right, because they to have these gifts is much better than land. You're right. All right, go ahead.
The only goal of my work is the spirituality of all men, because in spirituality they shall have to identify and understand themselves. In spirituality they shall see disappear the names and the exterior forms of their religions, which have been the cause of their spiritual distancing brought about by each interpreting God differently.
All right, now this is huge because he's saying, first of all, the goal of my work is spirituality. His work is a scripture. When he talks about his work, he's talking about the acts that he did and the scripture that gives the details of the acts that he did. And he said the purpose of it is spirituality of all men. That's the purpose. That's why we're here on this rock. That's the purpose. That's the meaning of life, is to become spiritual beings, to become closer to Him. Now down here it says in spirituality they shall see disappear the names of the exterior forms of their religions, and we talked about that earlier. How the religions don't really matter,
right.
And through spirituality it's not going to matter if you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim or whatever. The only thing that's going to matter is spirit and truth. But he goes on to say it's through these different religions, is because of these religions, what it says, which have been the cause of their spiritual distancing, brought about by each interpreting God differently.
Right.
So because you have all of these different religions, it's retarding our spiritualization.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a different view, and nobody knows what to believe. That's what it sounds like to me. Let's go.
Then they shall understand. 47. Then when all on their different paths come closer to spirituality, they shall understand that all that they have needed to do was liberate themselves from their materialism in order to translate into spiritual form what they always took in material way.
Yeah, so get rid of all that junk. Get rid of all that unnecessary, superfluous, evil junk out of your life, and you become spiritualized. Right? You might have to have a yard sale. If you don't, the Lord will take care. I mean, it'll get taken. I ain't gonna say the Lord will do it, but it'll get taken care of through fire, through moving. Stuff getting rained on, all kinds of stuff. But it's remember, the goal of His work is spirituality. Materialism is what's blocking us, and there's a lot of people out here praying to become spiritualized. So what's going to end up happening?
That stuff is going to be taken away.
You're going to end up losing your stuff, a lot of your stuff. All right, let's go on. Last verse.
48. Spirituality is all I ask of men in this time, and within what is right, they shall see their greatest ideal fulfilled and their greatest conflicts resolved.
Now, he says spirituality is all I ask, but there's a lot involved with that. There's charity, there's love, there's understanding of the doctrine, there's truth, there's knowledge, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's prayer, there's intuition, there's telepathy, there's a lot, right? But you say that's all I ask. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's where we want to be, right?
Yep, that's where you want to be. But like you say, you have to. I think my main thing of of what I've gained out of this is how you have to push materialism and these other passions and lusts and all this other stuff away, because they're actually trying to hinder your spiritualism.
Right. Now, what else? That's materialism. Now, in summary, you got materialism. What else is it going to take for you to become materialized or spiritualized?
Well, there's charity. There's obedience to the law. There's faith, love, and all those other things, right?
All right. So sounds like you got it.
Sounds like I know the information. Now to do the work, the labor.
I understand we got some work to do.
Right.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
My peace be with you. Hermes Academy. Power, patience, continence, and faith. We teach virtue.